This solar install has cost us thousands, and it's not even our fault.
Well, let's see what we can find out on the open source internet about this job. It's gone off this video, as I'm sure they're very pleased how well it's done. It's got like 319,000 views at the time of making this video. If you start whacking massive amounts of solar in, is it not your fault? And there's a few things in this video. It's good and bad. Like, first of all, you can see from the video, the original video which I've just watched, yeah, the quality of the install is there, right? There's no problem with the quality of the equipment or the installation they're using. But I think in this case, both sides might be to blame, but we're going to review this and have a nose because it's an interesting topic, because bigger and bigger solar installs, yeah, not as good infrastructure, but infrastructure is not there to support the owners of 17 kilowatt solar systems. Infrastructure is there to provide electricity to every man and his dog in the UK. So let's have a nose at some of the bits in this video and see what we can find out. First thing we need to do is establish some facts. Now, the first video tells you all about the panels, how many panels there are. There's 62 apparently. Are they 1, 2? I'll have to count them in a minute. But anyway, I don't care about any of that. The installation after the meter is probably fine. Yeah, not got a problem with that. However, I'm interested in the infrastructure, which is what he's moaning about in this video. So anyway, this is a tennis court. Believe it or not, it's not hard to find tennis courts. And luckily for me, it has this very, very unique structure here, which looks like some sort of grass mound with an ornament on top, surrounded by trees. So let's go to the Google Mappage and find that. That picture will help. Tennis courts aren't hard to find on Google Maps. There's that feed truck. It's got a spiral to it, yeah? Big fuck-off field surround it, and obviously the house is there. So we should be able to locate that. I'm guessing it's around Cambridge, so we'll run the numbers looking for a tennis court within 20 miles of centre of Cambridge. We'll park that bit for now, though. We're going to need to look at the infrastructure around, but let's see what the issue is.
Massive voltage fluctuations. When I say voltage fluctuations, what do I mean?
Well, you've obviously been fucking voltage fluctuation. I'm not going to go to this video, but what he's saying is got voltage fluctuation problems.
Well, basically, in summer, when this system's pumping out a ton of power, the voltage has been spiking to over 260 volts on the AC side.
If your voltage is spiking, there's that mound again. That's going to be easy to find. If your voltage is spiking when he's pumping out a ton of power, that sounds like a you problem to me. That is definitely a you problem, because the grid voltage you would think would be stable, because there's obviously quite a few houses around this area, I'm guessing. It looks like a big house as well, because they've got tennis courts. And if the voltage is spiking, is that happening on the grid, or is that happening because of your solar? That's what we've got to look into.
What do I mean? Well, basically, in summer, when this system's pumping out a ton of power, the voltage has been spiking to over 260 volts on the AC side. But then in winter, as we charge the batteries, it's been dropping right down to 220 volts. And this is creating big problems.
So what he's saying is, when you're trying to shove it all out, the voltage is going up. But when you're trying to drag it all in, the voltage is going down. That sounds like a load problem. So when you drag a lot of energy off something, you're dragging the voltage down. There's not enough supply. When you're pumping it out, you have to ram the voltage up higher. So now we're getting somewhere. This is a problem created by the solar and the batteries, because you've got it at both ends. When the sun's not out, you're dragging it to charge the batteries. And when the sun is out, you're pushing it to try and get rid of the load. So it's a bit of a greed problem at the minute, it seems. But we'll see. Outdoors. Top entry. Nice. So what's brought to attention is that they've installed a pen fault protection device. I'm guessing this is the video. It must be a Tesla charger, I'm guessing, because most chargers have that in now, except Tesla. So he's had to put the pen thing in, and that's when the problems come to a head, because the charger's cutting in and out, is what the rough idea is.
It is a big system with 3 inverters totaling 17 kilowatts of potential solar output and 3 big Solar Edge DC coupled batteries. Okay, so one of the problems I identified, I put it in the comment of the video, is 3 inverters ramming it out to the grid when it's a sunny day. To get the voltage to go out, the voltage needs to be higher than the grid voltage. But my thought is, these will fight each other. Although they are interconnected, as was corrected, yeah, they've got to send commands to each other to do the voltage thing. But if one of them makes the voltage rise a little bit, the other will have to rise to make do with it, the other will have to rise, the other will have to rise, the other will have to rise. And if you've got other solar, which is possible, on the same microgrid, which we'll check out in a bit,
they're going to scrap with each other. Also, they shouldn't be able to pump out over 253 volts, which makes you wonder where the 260 is coming from. Maybe it's fighting with another system, but what I'll definitely tell you is it's not fighting with the grid transformer, because grid transformers are fixed.
The system can churn out a lot of power, but we did get G99 approval for full 17 kilowatt export to the grid. So clearly the DNO did their calculations and checked that the local grid could support this kind of system, right?
Sounds like you're trying to pass the blame to the grid in the onset, yeah, but you may have got a 17 kilowatt output limit, but bear in mind, that could be the limit. Not 17 kilowatts all day, every single fucking day. That energy has got to go somewhere, and if the local grid is not that massive, it can't just be got rid of. It'll have to be shoved back onto the 11 kV network, which will do some right pushing then. Some serious pushing will be required. But also, you would have got the application to push that back within the specified voltage tolerances. So if you're saying it's going up to 260 and the pen fault protection is activating, something's wrong, because you can't have pen fault protection activated unless you're over or under the voltage, but you're telling me your solar's still working. He contacts the grid and asks them to look at it, and they say the base voltage is 240 volts, which Jordan claims is fairly high. It's not fairly high, it's fairly average. You've seen it high, you've seen it lower, but it can go up to 253. From 230, you're in the midpoint of going up a bit. It's not fairly high, it's within the range. We don't talk about it being, oh, it's a bit high. It's high when it's high, and it's in range when it's in range. There's no difference. And he says, when you add to that the increased voltage from the solar PV system, surely that should be happening. Surely you should be matching the voltage or slightly pushing, because it's not going to push back. The grid is not going to push back with more voltage. The grid's going to be at a voltage, and you're going to push out. The grid is not going to push back. Only other inverters and electronics can push back, I would say. A transformer's not going to rewind or retap itself. So they're all fixed. So the only thing that's going to affect the voltage is loadings and the shove. So if it's a high voltage, 240, your inverter's going to try and push back at 241. I don't know what this means.
Did UK Power Networks say? Well, they said that they could come out and connect a voltage monitoring device, but, and here's the catch, we would have to turn off the solar PV system while they were doing their monitoring.
Of course you would, because you're telling them that they are supplying the overvoltage. So if you don't turn off your solar PV, they can't run their tests to prove what their voltage is. They will measure your voltage. So the concept of them asking you to turn off their thing so you can help them solve their problem, but then your customer refuses to do it, is bonkers in itself, because they want to measure and you want to know their voltage, not your voltage.
And the PV system is affecting the grid voltage. If they were to just connect their voltage monitoring device during normal conditions with no PV connected, they'll just find that the grid voltage is 240 volts and they'll say it's fine. So that put us in a bit of a...
You were asking them to prove they're not supplying you with an overvoltage, which they're willing to do, and you've already accepted that the overvoltage coming from your system. So I don't know why it's the DNO's fault, but anyhow, we'll carry on.
If they'd be happy for us to turn off the solar PV system for a couple of weeks while the DNO did their tests, and understandably, the customer said no, they didn't want...
Because the customer's because the customer wants the problem solving, but he's a greedy bastard and don't want to lose his PV that he's shelled out thousands for, but he doesn't want to help solve the situation. He just wants to keep banging it out and possibly affect his neighbours, the grid, and everyone else in the area. So I get it, you're dealing with a customer, but that's not your fault at the end of the day. That's just a customer being a bit of a dick.
That meant we had to take matters into our own hands, and we did this. This is a voltage optimizer.
Oh, you are fucking joking.
Now, if you watched the channel before, you'll know that I hate voltage optimizers.
What do you fit it for then? I hate paedophiles, that's why I don't let them around my ass.
I think they're a bit of a scam. And
they are, and you've sold, well, I don't think you've sold them, you bought one. You are literally, now you are lying to the grid. So you are getting your equipment to lie to the grid from some wanky transformer thing. So you haven't solved the problem, you're just hiding it. So I don't know what the thought process was with this, but voltage optimizers are never a solution. They are shit. And if he's exporting, he's ramming 17 kilowatts through that, is he? Fucking Jesus Christ, why does the thing blown off the wall?
And yet we have paid out of our own pocket,
You fool.
to install this one
You fool.
for our customer.
You fool.
Why?
Because you're a
Basically because we didn't really have much other choice. That spike of 260 volts is just not acceptable when the solar is running. We needed to do something to get the base voltage down.
Could you not reduce the output of the solar just temporarily? Could you not just made the solar output loads less to then prove that your oversized system wasn't at fault? Just drag it down to, like, I don't know, 10 kilowatts or 6. They'll still power the house. And there's thousands of settings in the solar edge gear that can help you with that, is there not? I'm not an expert, but I think that's how it works.
So that the system would float up and down but stay within the voltage norms that are required in order to charge an EV and do all of the other things that you need to do in your house safely.
So we're admitting it's not safe, but we don't want to turn the solar off.
So we fitted this voltage optimizer at our own cost, which cost us thousands of pounds by the time we bought the thing and put the time and effort into fitting it, but it's still not solved the problem. Welcome to the inner workings of a huge voltage optimizer.
That's not huge, mate. That's the size of a shoebox. Yeah, huge voltage optimizer, the size of that car in the background, but they're still shite, no matter how big they are. Don't worry about it.
Higher power for the whole house through this transformer. What?
17 kilowatts running through that bad boy in the middle of summer. That shit, you could cook an egg on the top of that motherfucker. Yeah, also, I'm not sure the protection's been done, but that's just a fuse. That's just a switch, should I say. But yeah, do not buy these things. They are junk. They are shit. I've got a whole video on it. Yeah, do not get sucked into this transformer bullshit. It's bollocks. Right, loads of that was just about a voltage optimizer, which is bollocks, yeah? This is the chart before they fix the voltage optimizer. And it just goes da 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 da. Obviously, I'm guessing that they've not put the stuff on the graph. It's a fucking useless graph, but I'm guessing it's... Normally in the evening it sits around 244 volts, and in the daytime it's spiking up to 260. Because obviously generation is here. No generation. I'm guessing they're not putting load on at night at this time of year because this is not going down enough, because that's the sun and that's just a normal load of the battery charge at night, I assume.
And this is in summer, and you can see that during the day when the sun comes up, the voltage spikes up to around 260 volts.
Which must mean that not just your solar, additional solar on the grid in the local area, or maybe big solar farms nearby, are causing problems, because obviously as the sun comes up there's more energy available and it's got to be distributed around the grid. That's not necessarily a problem, to be fair. We'll have to we'll look on open infrastructure map in a bit and see if we can find out what's in the local area.
So on the 15th of November we fitted the voltage optimizer, and you can see the difference it's made here. So this was the 14th of November. The voltage was baseline around 240.
Note this shape. Yeah, this is the shape for the day. It's just doing this, yeah?
volts. And then right here about lunchtime on the 15th of November.
It's the same shape, but it's dropped by this much. The voltage optimizer is just taking it down this much. All it's doing is take this level here and drop it down to this level here. Same patterns, same problems, but at a lesser voltage, which really doesn't solve fuck all.
November, when Lee fitted the voltage optimizer, it dropped down and the baseline suddenly became about 225.
Same shape, same shit, just low voltage. That's what voltage optimizers do. They're a scam, they're a con. Anyway, I'm bored of voltage optimizers now.
Baseline down, which is great, but there's another problem that we didn't think about, and that's when it comes to charging the batteries.
Don't tell me that you bought a voltage optimizer, which isn't really an optimizer, it just drops it by a set amount, and now, because the voltage is lower to a fixed amount, at night the voltage is too low, yeah?
Now the whole point of having a large battery storage system like this is that in the winter, when you're not generating so much solar power, you can charge them up overnight on the cheap electricity, basically force charge them, and then use that cheap energy to run your house throughout the day. And that's exactly what our customer's been doing. So at around midnight, these batteries get ramped up to charge at about 17 kilowatts, basically full pelt to charge.
Just remember that 17 kilowatts on single phase, yeah, that is a big old lump.
Charge the batteries up, and after a few hours, they're fully charged. However, that huge spike in load has caused a voltage drop. Basically, and this is how Ohm's law works, when you pull more power, the voltage goes down. And so now that our base voltage is lower, we're getting a voltage drop when these batteries are charging. As you can see from this chart here, it's dropping to around 205 volts.
This bit is totally on you, to be fair. Yeah, you failed to do any design or calculations regarding your voltage optimizer. You just whacked it in trying to solve one problem and create another. When if you looked at the data sheets and what voltage optimizers do, maybe even watched my excellent video on them, yeah, you'd know that they just drop it down. And now you're in shit street at the other end of the scale because voltage optimizers don't vary to make the voltage. So in a PID loop, you keep a voltage in, it go up, you push it down, go down, you push it up. So if it's optimizing properly, it'd do that and keep it in a level. This just goes from here to here. So, yeah, tough shit on the old voltage optimizer. Anyway, I'm bored of voltage optimizer now. Again.
I think the problem lies in the DNO transformer. What is that?
I'll be very careful here, slagging for DNO, if you ever want to get a G99 application again. What with your massive YouTube and all of them now, having watched this. But anyway.
Basically, all the mains transition power in the UK comes from high voltage lines, usually 11,000 volts, and then they have a transformer somewhere near your house which steps it down to what should be 230 volts. Now that is what we call the...
You transition to three-phase voltage, it's 6.6 to neutral, but yeah, anyway, we'll let you have that. This transformer drawing now is a bit wrong, but I get that he's trying to speak to a general civilian.
Nominal voltage in the UK, that's basically what the baseline voltage should be at most properties. Now,
it never is though.
The DNO allows for a certain tolerance of plus 10% and minus 6, around 240 volts under normal conditions. Well, they're going to say that that's acceptable.
They're going to say that's acceptable because it is.
However, with the solar pushing it up...
So your solar's pushing it up. You're admitting your solar's pushing up to 260, which is outside the specifications that you just outlined that are not just for them to send to you, but for you to send to them.
To 260 volts, it comes outside of that norm. And the question is, for me, whose responsibility is that? Is it the DNO because they've allowed us to connect this generating set to the grid, or is it our responsibility?
I'd argue it's a bit of both, to be fair to you. It is a bit of both, but when they allowed you to export 17 kilowatts, I doubt they expect you to be pumping it out day in, day out. However, they should probably look at thinking that, because we've got to remember, as well as Jordan and people like him on a learning curve, so are the DNOs.
Let me know what you think in the comments below.
So if you're moaning about me doing this video, I'll just say let me know in the comments below, or a video. So I'm just doing that. I'm just doing what you said.
But going back to this point of the transformer...
Just FYI, this drawing is totally wrong. Yeah, it is nothing like that. But he is explaining to civilians. It'd actually be a delta star with a central point. But yeah, that I guess he's just trying to show a transformer, but it wouldn't look anything like that whatsoever. That'd be a 6.6 kV, and that'd be a polyphase or something like that. I don't know. I think that much blow up, but yeah, you could get 230, it'd be 115 volts a leg. I think if you did it like that. That would be a weird way of doing it. But that's wrong. Don't draw that, kids.
Transformers can be rated at different sizes.
These are small, but the ones out there are far away.
And the size of the transformer, for example, if it's a 70 kVA transformer, it can basically allow like 70 kilowatts.
Not quite right, but yeah, all right, they're enough for civilians.
To pass through it. The problem with that is that if you're pulling more than 70 kilowatts, or you're generating more and pushing more back, it's going to restrict the flow through the transformer.
A transformer is not a restriction device. A transformer is a winding, and it has protection either side of it in the form of fuses. So what you're saying there is, if you ram through more than it can take, it'll break. It will. The fuse will break. So what they're saying is, it will accept your 17 kilowatts. Otherwise, it's not a restrictor. It's not a resistor. If it was over the amount allowed for the transformer, the fuse would be popping and the power would be going off. So that's a little bit wrong. Like I say, he's seen it as a restrictor. It's not. If it was pushing too much through or dragging too much through the other way, the fuse would pop and the power to the village would go off. It's that simple, basically.
Through the transformer, and I think that's a problem that we've got here. Now, I've got a lot of respect for UK power networks. They've been very...
You should have a lot of respect for DNOs as well, people. Everyone out there, because these are the daft bastards that are up lines in the snow, in the wind and the rain, keeping the electric on. And let's not forget that the DNOs, whilst they do charge for the services, you get a 99.99998% of activity of electricity being available at your house. So the power network people and all the ones I work with, and I do work with a lot of them from different things, are really good. And there's a lot of people in there that just fucking love their jobs, especially the engineers. So yeah, fair play to the power networks.
Very helpful with us in the past on various things, but in this particular case, they've been absolutely useless.
In your opinion, I'll be careful what you say about them, because I bet every single one of them's watched this. Like I say, good luck with your future DNO inquiries, because if you're going to make videos like this in the future, you're going to realise that they're going to just say no when they see your name on the paperwork.
Taking things into my own hands, and I'm going to see if I can find the local transformer and figure out what the problem is.
Right, you have not got the energy or experience or knowledge to do that, but this is...
Now, in order to find the transformer, we need to basically trace the cables from the house back to wherever they go.
You are a fucking genius. I would never have thought of that.
There is an underground supply to this house, but I believe that it comes up this pole over here. So
that pole, they're the cables. They look to me from this distance, it's not something I'm an expert in. They are ABC, aerial bundled cable, which is aluminium cables that are insulated, twisted together. Can't work out if there's 2 or 4 in there. We'll hopefully go a bit closer. I'll move to there. Thank you for supplying that asset code. That'll be most useful to me when I'm trying to hunt down where this location is. Later on in the video, he blanks out a road sign, but then leaves the asset code there, but never mind. That looks like, that's definitely aerial bundle cable, but I can't tell if that's a fork or like a 3-phase and... I can't tell if that's 3-phase and neutral. But obviously coming off it, that looks to be thinner, and so does that. Maybe that's a thicker 2-phase, like a phase and a neutral. And then they're 2 smaller ones, and then one goes down here. Obviously, we can't see what's going to happen on there, because obviously that is overgrown. Don't think it matters it's overgrown on ABC, though. Yeah, blocked out the road sign there, look, but you've left the asset code on the lamppost, so that's no good to anyone that knows what they're doing. But we'll try and find it in a minute.
Oh my goodness, it's completely overgrown. That is crazy. Right, so this is exactly what I'm talking about, guys. So that's the cable that comes up the road, and then it goes across the road. I mean, all the poles here are completely overgrown. To be honest, the state of the network is pretty poor here.
Yeah, they've got a lot on, the lads and ladies that do this kind of thing, keeping the vegetation down. It's an ongoing problem, but I think sometimes you're responsible for your vegetation not interrupting with their equipment. So whoever owns that ground should probably possibly clean it off. There are hundreds of thousands of pole mounted transformers across the country that require maintenance, and the power networks are pretty good at dealing with them, to be fair, as you'll know by how much electric goes off. But yeah, overgrown stuff. Whose land is that? Why are they letting it get overgrown in the infrastructure? Is that the DNO's responsibility or not? I don't know, actually. I'd like to find out.
And we've walked about, I don't know, how many metres have we walked? Probably about 300 metres.
300 metres! That aerial bundled cable, it's not my area. I know people I could ring and they'd look at that video and tell you exactly what it is, but I'm guessing it's probably like 25, 35, 50 mil tops at 300 metres. All right, it's in free air, but 300 metres from the point there. So what you got to remember is, because of volt drop, that transformer will have to be over voltaged so that when it gets to the house, it's at the right voltage. So that guy, if that house is not at the end of the street and there's other house after it, they'll have to put the voltage up at one end, so that at the transformer it might be 260, in the middle it might be 240, and at the other end it might be 220. So it's a long old run, but they will work that out so that the voltages are right. That's why we have this range to work in, so we can get all those houses on the cable, allowing for volt drop.
From the customer's house to get to here, there's quite a long cable run overhead, and if we clamber up here, you'll see the transformer on some crunky old poles.
Yeah, they're not crunky old poles, they're fine. Like, looks like a not bad area for a pole to be in. You get poles like that, older than that, bigger than that, on windswept hillsides. They are designed to last 20 to 30 years. They've got enough creosote in to kill a cat.
Completely overgrown.
Again, I think that's the responsibility of the landowner. But there's a transformer. It's quite an old transformer. It's got external cooling vents in the pipes. They don't do them like that anymore. There's the fuses for the LV side. There's CTs. Something's being monitored here. Look, there's a box there of gubbins. So is that... I don't know if that's temporary voltage. I don't know if that's temporary monitoring. Because it looks... I don't know if that's temporary monitoring. I'm not familiar with this kind of pole side equipment. I have to mess around and ask them. But I think they're CTs. And that's some sort of pole monitoring equipment, that is. Asset code, cheers.
Well, that explains a lot, and I feel a bit relieved, to be honest, because I thought I was going nuts on this project. But to be honest, the fact that the transformer is so far away...
These are small, but the ones out there are far away.
It looks...
The transformer being so far away is something you could have checked when you did the install. But, alright, you're right, it is far away. The cable's small. Doesn't give you any ammo. The transformer's been there for probably 70 years.
Fairly small.
It's fairly small. You haven't checked anything. You haven't checked the nameplate rate or anything like that, as far as I'm aware. What is your definition of fairly small? You just called that massive transformer fairly small, but it called your voltage optimizer fairly large. Is it physical size or what?
And it's in a pretty shocking state.
It's not really for a pole mounted transformer. It's just a bit overgrown.
Explains this whole problem and gives me ammo.
Basically, you're trying to cart it all off onto the DNO here because the transformer doesn't look like a showroom, but alright then, fair enough.
To take to UK Power Networks to say, hey guys, please, can you help us out? Can you just upgrade your transformer?
If they upgrade the transformer, then they'll need to upgrade all the cabling as well and dig up this entire hamlet. They're probably moaning about it, yeah? You're looking at that transformer to be replaced and all the cabling, you're looking at £500,000, which, if they want it upgrading, they will make them pay for. They won't do it for free. They'll only upgrade the network as it comes up for its natural renewal. They're not going to pay £500,000 plus more to upgrade the network in this area unless all the houses club together and pay for it.
Because I know that a lot of the neighbours in this area would like to get solar too, but that ain't happening until that transformer gets upgraded.
Well, it's not now. Your customers nicked all the fucking allocation, but we'll check that in a bit.
Now, our customer's house is here, the supply transformer is over there, but that overhead line carries on further and further down the road, and I'm wondering what kind of voltage issues the neighbours have experienced.
They're probably not getting voltage down there. They're probably within the scope. Again, the range of voltages to cater for lines like that.
All the way down at the end of the line. Now, in order to come to UK Power Networks and get them to take some action...
Anyway, I'm bored now. He's just going to get a Pel out, which is obviously an excellent tool for it, because I use them and I can't fault Chevron. He's going to measure some voltages, blah, 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 and do all that, and then he's going to give us a little bit at the end, which we'll get into before we look at see what we can do about this, gubbins.
Our power energy logger is in place, logging away, and soon we'll have the results to send to UKPN. Comment below part 2 if you'd like to see an...
Anyway, he's going to take his Chevron data, he's going to send it to UKPN, who aren't going to probably accept it because it's not their data and they haven't gathered it properly. But anyway, right, what we need to do is go back to start this video and see if we can find out what the local infrastructure is like, not just what Jordan's looked at. So if we go down here, they're from Cambridge. Yeah, turn the sign off. They're from Cambridge. I've had a little bit of help with this of some people know who does a lot of shit with this kind of thing. They're in Cambridge, they're near Cambridge. They're on a tennis court, and this mound is there. So, I know a couple of people who are into geotagging and all that kind of stuff, and I said, I reckon it's probably in 25 miles of Cambridge. Anyhow, I spoke to one of my clever mates who showed me an AI script, and anyway, I found these, look at these 3 tennis courts, look. There's a tennis court, there's something round next to that, but that's not the one I wanted. There's a tennis court with the wrong features around it. That's not a tennis court, that may have been a tennis court, but now it looks like a menage. And down here, look at that bad boy. There's a tennis court there with a spirally feature next to it. That is where they are. There's no solar panels there. Anyway, the mapping on Google Maps is shit. There's no there's no solar. Let's see if we can find it on Bing. Bing Maps has much better satellite images. Look, there's the first tennis court. Look, that's not the feature I'm looking for. Don't know why these tennis courts are featured next to them. That one, whoa. That's us. That's it, look. There's that spiral. So that's where it is. So now I know where it is. There's the road and there's the T-junctions. The transformer, I reckon, is somewhere... I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do is, Now we know where it is. I'm not trying to give it away to you. I've blanked out I've took the place names off. But let's look on the infrastructure map. So now I've gone into the UK Power Networks Open Infrastructure Map, and I've found out where it is. I'm going to zoom in a minute so you don't know where it is, but it's around Cambridge, obviously. And I've turned on LV poles, LV overhead lines, HV poles, HV overhead lines, and the 33 kV stub, as well as the primary and secondary substation sites. I'll zoom in. So it's in this general area here. And as you can see, there's the 11 kV overlay of the lines. I'm not going to give away exactly where it is, but it's round this area. And there's quite an extensive array of 11 kV lines. So it's all done on 11 kV. Let's have a little zoom into where it is. This is the location of where it is. Looking at the video and compared to this transformer here, because you can see there's that road, look, there's a double tennis court, yeah? That is the transformer we stood up there. Also, the asset code was on it, so that was easy. So there you go. It's fed by 11 kV, but it's fed off quite a long 11 kV line. Like that 11 kV line goes miles away, and it's got T's and stuff off it, going to some 33 kV primary somewhere, I'm guessing. But if we zoom back into that transformer, which is that one, there's a little symbol for the transformer. If I click on that, it tells me all about it. Its location, its number of transformers is 1. Its utilisation band is 40 to 60%. Its OAN rating at kVA is 100 kVA transformer. It's going to be reinforced in 2039. So if it's open to get it redone, it's going to be there till 2039. It's not going to be changed unless they pay for it. So look at the secondary dashboard data. So where's the substation details for that transformer? So there's its site ID, function location, site address, the licence area. It's a ground mount, pole mount transformer. There's the grid reference, whoops. Utilisation band, it's 40 to 60% of it's being used, and it's got 58 customers on it. So if they're in a voltage problem, it'll be those 58 customers. And it gives you all them details for it there. So it would have been too hard to look on this open piece of infrastructure and find out what was going off. And the source data is also there. Yeah, tells you the district, tells the EPN. Number of customers, 11 kV, transformers, 46% utilisation, but it is a 100 kVA transformer, so it should be able to handle it. Like, it should be able to handle that 17 kilowatts. 58 people, that's going to be what? 60 kilowatts, maybe a bit more because they're in a bigger area of swimming pools and all that kind of shit looking on Google Maps. But the transformer is a 100 kilowatt transformer, so it's not like it's massively undersized or anything. I've been talking about infrastructure supporting renewables for a number of years now. It's nice to see that some of the big YouTubers are catching up with me and what I'm saying. But unfortunately, there's a lot of free source software available from that. This UKPN dashboard is also mimicked by WPD and all that. So when you are going to look at a job, you can go on this, look at the 11 kV lines around it, look at the transformers, look at the date it's going to be upgraded. In this case, that transformer's not been upgraded for another 15 years. They are regularly serving those transformers and poles, and they are involved in a rigorous maintenance schedule and checking schedule. Obviously, that one's got some CTs in it, so I'd argue they are doing some data sourcing for that. But yeah, it's all there to look at. But it's just nice to see that people are looking, because remember, if you're going to start installing EV, PV, solar on massive grids like internal town and city grids, that energy is going to be absorbed. On a little grid like this, we've just found it's got 58 customers. That means when they are generating 17 kilowatts and they are trying to shove it out, that's got to be used locally by those 17 customers. Some of that energy, I'd argue, on a really sunny day when everyone's at work, on that grid, there is a possibility that those 58 houses, well, it's only on one phase, isn't it, as well? So there's 58 houses, but that's a single phase supply. So if we divide that by 3, that means you've got to get rid of 17 kilowatts on a single phase to round about 10 to 20 houses. That means, I doubt that those houses would use that electricity. That means some of it being pushed back through the transformer, going out to the 11 kV network. There are probably days in that village where that 17 kilowatts is being swallowed up entirely, where that solar system is powering that entire village on one of those phases. Every house on that phase. Stop doing that thumbs up thing. So yeah, that's what you've got to consider. Then the rest of it's got to go through the transformer to the 11 kV network. There's a lot of stuff going off with infrastructure. But what I will argue is, I don't think there's anything wrong with that transformer. And you are definitely not going to get it made bigger, because that is going to cost you, transformer cabling, at least £1 million. Yeah, transformer and cabling for that's going to cost 1 million sheets. Yeah, and they are not going to pay for that themselves. If you want it upgrading to suit if you want to build a massive mansion there and you want a 100 kVA supply, which that transformer can't meet, the suppliers are going to say, you could have a normal supply, right? But if you want a big one, you've got to pay for the system upgrades. They're going to whack a new 11 kV set of poles into your house, put you a pole mount transformer in your garden and give you 3-phase. And you're going to pay for that. The last one I dealt with, some guy had a massive ass, and he had, I think it was a mile of poles, a transformer and the 3-phase install, 80 grand. So like, this customer is going to be struggling to get rid of that. They probably need to utilise it better. I'm sure there's loads of settings that solar people know about they could do, but yeah, if he thinks he's going to get an upgrade to that transformer, if he gets one, I'll eat the old transformer. Then again, he might do because he's a big player in the YouTube game, but I doubt it. All he's probably really on here is alienate himself with every UK power distributor in the world. My honest opinion is this, right, and genuinely, right, there's nothing wrong with that solar install that Jordan's put in there and his team put in there, yeah? The workmanship's good, the equipment's good, the quality's good. I've no doubt that their work is high level, you can see it, they've got videos on it, all that kind of thing, yeah? I think they're a little bit too big for the boots. I think they've done a lot of solar installs in big cities and in city grids and all that where it can be swallowed up in small ones, yeah? They've started doing these big ones and they've bit off a little bit more than they can chew. On the flip side of that, UK Power Networks have dealt with them like they're a professional solar farm installer and probably gave them some requirements with that, explained to them properly. Like, you can have 17 kilowatts, that's your peak. So maybe they should have spoke to them in a bit more, like, explained it a little bit more to them. But I don't really think UKPN are at fault. I don't think UKPN are going to fix it. I think when you start increasing the size of the job you do, you have a lot more to consider, and I think they probably forgot about this. And the optimizer is just a fucking red area, and they shouldn't bother doing that. But yeah, be careful when you scale up because bad things can happen.